Recording
Hello,
in progress.
good evening. We would like to welcome you to this, the second and final day of the third National IGF, under the theme, the use of emerging technologies for disaster resilience. May I invite you to bow your heads even as we have a word of prayer to begin. Almighty God, we are thankful for the opportunity you've given us to be here once again. Even as we look at this important topic, I pray that you be with the presenters, be with those who would have joined us, the participants, whether it be by Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube. Help, oh God, that we can garner a wealth of knowledge so that we can together learn how we can be more resilient in the face of emerging technologies, in the face of all of these challenges, disaster, etc., that we have been dealing with. Lead us and guide us now, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you again. I know I probably might have said welcome just now, but the Internet Governance Forum is a multi stakeholder governance group of policy dialogue on issues of Internet governance. Now, it brings together all stakeholders in the Internet governance debate, whether they represent governments, the private sector, or civil society, including the technical and academic community. So, since its establishment, the St. Vincent and the Grenadines chapter of ISOC has participated in this IGF yearly until, of course, the pandemic would have hit us. So we are back here today again, our final day. And as I would have shared, our theme for 2021 is the use of emerging technologies for disaster resilience. And given all that we have experienced as a nation, um, it is without a doubt that these series of presentations are needed both to educate and create discussions as we move further into the 21st century. As we bring home this year's IGF, I would like to implore our participants, whether by Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube, to ensure that you have registered and please complete the evaluation form. All right, that's going to be critical. Now, yesterday we had Ms. Carla James, the Executive Director of the Financial Services Authority, FSA, and Mr. Marlo Brown, Director of PaySwift. And those were some excellent presentations. Now, today we have a full complement of exciting presenters also. We have Mr. Winston George, who's the coordinator of digital transformation. Let me just read his bio quickly for you so that you can get an understanding of who he is. He's Vincentian by birth, nationality. He has a master's of science in ICT 4D at the University of Manchester. That's in the United Kingdom. And now he has also a BSc in information technology out of the University of the West Indies. He has a diploma in agriculture, and that's coming out of the Eastern Caribbean Institute of Agriculture and Forestry. That's out of Trinidad and Tobago. He has worked diversely. All right, he was the project manager for CARSIP, um, interim project coordinator at CARSIP. He currently, I believe, works at the Economic Planning Division, Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning and Information Technology. All right. He would have also served as project officer. He come to us with a wealth of knowledge and um, experience. Now, today we are happy to have him with us to share with us, even as he deals with the whole idea of emerging technologies and disaster. Next, we have Mr. Petros Gomes, who is a science and technology engineer, a maths, and he basically is the, I would say, founder of STEM SVG. He was born and raised in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He attended Petersville Primary, St. Martin's Secondary, Community College, and Teachers College. He pursued a degree at the College of Scholastica in Duluth, Minnesota, where he worked for a while before returning to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Among other things, it's important to know that Petrus developed a one-of-a-kind summer program that exposes kids to of all different aspects of technology, properly known as STEM, STEM. All right. He is now launched the STEM Education Online Institute. And if you don't know about it, Google it. In fact, when he's talking, he'll tell you a little bit more of how you can get to be a part of that project. So the Institute now helps students all year round. So we're happy to have with us also Mr. Petrus Gomes. Next, we have Mr. Maurice John and Eben Wilkins, who are together the hosts of Techno Blur. Now, let me start with Maurice John. Maurice John is an Seventh-day Adventist. He's married and has a young son, MJ3, Maurice John III. At his core, Mr. John is an avid lover of all things IT. This love affair started in the halls of the St. Vincent and Grenadines Grammar School and has continued to grow since then. He holds a BSc in computer science from University of the West Indies, Cave Hill. During his time at Cave Hill, he, along with his lifelong partner now, uh, Janik, sorry, with his partner, not lifelong. I'm putting myself in trouble and Maurice in trouble also. Janica John started a technology blog, The Daily Geek, to document the Caribbean opinion on the world of technology. That blog went on to amass thousands of visitors on a monthly basis. The passion for expressing the Caribbean tech opinion led to the creation of a new platform, TechnoBlurb, which he and Mr. Eben Wilkins use video to communicate their thoughts on the world of technology. Since leaving Cave Hill, he has focused on becoming a proficient web development, mobile app development, and digital marketing agent. For the past 8 years, he has operated two businesses. M. John IT Solutions, a software development focused business, and Caribbean Dreams, an IT infused real estate business. Sitting on the foundation of IT, Caribbean Dreams has grown exponentially over the years to become one of the recognized real estate brands in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Recently, the field of agriculture has caught his interest, so he is starting a new farming business under the brand Roots in Eden to use farming as a foundation to infuse IT and hospitality. After God and family, IT sits as the third family member of the Passion Trinity in Mr. John's life. Right? And that tells you that you're in for something great. And now we move on to Mr. Eben Wilkins. He is a trade market executive at the Couriers Distribution Limited. Here he assists in the marketing of various brands and products distributed by the company and is responsible for fostering good relationships with customers. He has a bachelor's degree in accounting, and yet he finds himself deep in the IT field. He will explain why. He also considers himself a tech enthusiast, always keeping up with the latest in technology and IT related issues. He is the co host for the technology show TechnoBlurb, which airs on VC3 TV. The show highlights many local apps and top trending technology news and issues, and of course, rumors. He is currently part of the Value Experience and leads the development of the current mobile application and web platform for the company. The Value Experience is a wellness center that promotes holistic wellness of individuals. We're so thankful that we have this grand um, set of presenters. We're also going to be having um, and IGF Quick Flash. You're going to hear a little bit more about that, but we're going to be having um, Miss Anja Jengo, who's going to share a little bit more about IGF so that we can understand what it's really about and how we can become a part of this forum discussion. We're going to begin our presentations this afternoon with Mr. Winston George, who will lead us on a nice journey. Ladies and gentlemen, if you were in the room, I would have asked you to put your hands together for Mr. Winston George. All over to you, Mr. George.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Pastor Kerr, my fellow panelists, presenters. I just want to take this opportunity to thank the organizers for inviting me to make this particular presentation. Now, I'm looking at the use of emerging technologies for disaster resilience as it relates to the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. Now, in terms of a background on the in terms of a background on the project, the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project is being implemented in the four Windward Islands: Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And it is comprised of regional and national level activities. It's financed by World Bank International Development Association to the tune of 94 million US dollars. In the case of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the government has invested US 30 million. Now, the development objective of this project is to increase access to digital services, technologies, and skills by governments, businesses, and individuals in the participating Eastern Caribbean countries. Now, why the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project? And their global, regional, and national imperatives driving digital transformation. So, digital technologies, ICTs, telecommunication networks, devices, and applications changing the global economy, affecting almost every sector and aspect of our lives. Our countries and region cannot be left behind. Digital transformation is therefore critical to recognizing economic opportunities and sustainable livelihoods. And in terms of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 9, it calls for building resilient infrastructure, fostering innovation, and universal access to ICTs. In terms of the specific national drivers, we have the National Economic and Social Development Plan 2013 to 2025, which calls for economic diversification, human capital development, building climate resilience, and improving efficiency of the public sector. Also, it is important for us to improve the overall environment for doing business efficiently, which is a major driver for attracting foreign direct investment. And also to promote the delivery of 24/7, anytime, anywhere delivery of government services once we have access to the internet. So I'm going now to speak to the activities on the project. So the regional project activities are led by the OECS Commission, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, ECTEL, which is the Eastern Caribbean Telecommunications Authority, and CARICOM Impacts. Now, in terms of component one, digital enabling environment, the aim here is to support the development of a positive enabling environment for the region's digital economy that drives competition, investment, and innovation while promoting trust and security of online transactions. Subcomponent 1.1 addresses telecommunications, legal and regulatory environment, institutions, and capacity. And the aim here is to support greater telecoms sector competition, affordability, service quality across the region, as well as enhancing resilience and emergency response capabilities for critical communications infrastructure. And this is essentially led by ECTEL and the NTRC. And so specifically what would be done would be the review of the legal and regulatory frameworks covering telecommunications, and also establishment of quality of service monitoring and enforcement methodology and capacity, and development of action plans to improve network resilience and post-disaster recovery emergency communication, and implementation of communications infrastructure, disaster response, and recovery drills in partnership with the private sector. In terms of subcomponent 1.2, this is overseen by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, and it addresses the whole matter of digital financial services, the legal and regulatory environment, institutions, and capacity. So it aims here to spur greater innovation, investment, and adoption of digital financial services across the region. So it will support the modernization of the policy, legal and regulatory frameworks, and underlying payment infrastructure, currently holding back innovations within the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, from rolling out new non-bank digital payment products and services, and preventing merchants, governments, and individuals from more routinely utilizing digital forms of payment. So what would be done here? You would have an updating of the Payment Systems Act and Money Services Business Act. Also undertaking demand-side surveys on financial access and usage in line with international standards to inform policy making and monitor progress toward financial inclusion. Also, there'll be a development of an overarching payment system strategy for the region and a technical design of a regional instant payment system open to banks, non-banks, and ECCU governments. And subcomponent 1.3 addresses the whole matter of cybersecurity and data governance. In terms of cybersecurity, this will be led by CARICOM Impacts. And in terms of data governance, that would be led by the OECS Commission. I just want to say here, so this component here aims to build trust in online transactions and strengthen the security and resilience of digital infrastructure and systems. So I just want to make a plug here. While there's a regional component of this, the government has also invested additional resources in the case of St. Vincent to support this particular activity. And what would be done here is a review and updating of regional and national cybersecurity policy, legislation, regulation, etc. Also, establishment of computer emergency response teams at national level in line with regionally agreed model and support for regional threat intelligence sharing, etc. Also, regional coordinated capacity building and networking for government cyber professionals and cyber awareness campaigns, and also review and update of regional and national data protection and privacy laws and data access and exchange policies. Now, in terms of component 2, this goes specifically to St. Vincent and the Grenadines activities. And this component deals with digital government infrastructure, platforms, and services. And it is aimed to support public sector modernization, resilience, and delivery of digital public services to individuals and businesses. If you notice in the presentation, resilience keeps repeating itself. So the subcomponent 2.1 looks at cross-cutting enablers of digital government operations and services. And in this area, you have to support the development of key enablers of digital government services and operations in line with regionally harmonized standards and frameworks. So what is planned? Developing and implementing a digital transformation strategy, enterprise architecture, interoperability framework, and continuity of operations plan. Reviewing and updating of proposed legislation, regulations, or policies covering e-transactions, digital signature, identification as required. Establishing or reinforcing digital government infrastructure, equipment and software, expansion of local area networks, data centers or data hosting services, probably going into a government cloud. The other item there is the development of a digital identification system, a user authentication platform. The other aspect there is establishing electronic document management and digital signature capabilities. A key component here is the development of a digital payment platform to send and receive payments for services, taxes, payroll vendors, social protection services, etc. And also, along with all that, you would have capacity building of centralized information technology workforce and change management across the public service. Subcomponent 2.2, government productivity platforms and citizen-centric digital services. And it will support the development of priority government productivity platforms and the citizen-centric digital public services. So you would have the digitization and integration of key registries and information systems and establishment of a data exchange platform. Also, you will have business process re-engineering and end-to-end digitization of common government to citizen transactions and public services, such as issuance of birth, death, marriage certificates, driver's license, and motor vehicle registration, passport applications, and tax filings. Establishing an online web and mobile portal for accessing public services and information, and also developing a geographical information system and an electronic single window for land and property information and transactions, as well as a electronic single window for customs clearance and administration, and the development of an electronic tax administration system. The In terms of component three deals with digital skills and technology adoption. And this component aims to better equip individuals and businesses across the regions for jobs and the economy of the future, and to spur innovation and productivity growth. So in terms of the key activities here, there will be a survey done first to identify the technical and soft skills in greatest demand in the regional and global market among digitally enabled industries and conducive to remote working arrangements, and a regional level advanced digital skills development and job coaching program. So there will also be the national component of that. In terms of subcomponent 3.2, technology adoption, this subcomponent seeks to increase adoption of digital technologies, platforms, and digitally enabled business models by small and medium enterprises, and access to digital services for students, teachers, and vulnerable groups. So essentially, it will support purchase of digital devices and associated digital content and training to support access among vulnerable groups and remote learning by students. Above that, a program to accelerate the adoption of digital technologies within priority sectors such as tourism and agriculture, including managerial training, business advisory services, and provision of matching grants, etc. Now, the component 4 has to do with project implementation, the national implementation mechanism for this project. You have an overall project steering committee, which is cabinet mandated, and they have overall cross-ministry agency coordination and oversight. And below that, we have the project implementation unit with the project coordinator, the procurement persons, financial specialists, etc. And that is in the Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning, and Information Technology. To assist us with implementing this complex project, we would have a technical advisory support firm that will support the project implementation unit in its implementation. And in terms of the regional project implementation support, there's a regional project oversight committee, and you will have the national project implementation units feeding into that regional project oversight. And you have the technical lead agencies. There's a regional project implementation unit with a project manager, a procurement specialist, and a financial specialist. That is in terms of the implementation of the project. Now, in terms of the digital transformation project and disaster resilience. Now, response, essentially the digital transformation project is responding to things such as the disease pandemics like COVID-19, man-made and natural disasters, and economic shocks, if we want to put it within that context. So how does it do it? We have continuity of government operation. There were times when persons had to, leave. Some of the things would have been shut down. If we think again in terms of storage of government information and so on, basically the digital transformation project will assist us in the continuity of government operations, even in times of disasters and so on. Enabling remote work and learning, reducing physical contact, travel, and even waiting times. So in a case where we implement citizen authentication, unique ID, we have that component, we apply for service online, and then we have a payments gateway through which we make that payment. So rather than going into a line in Kingston to paper services, you basically could do that anytime, anywhere, once you have access to the internet. There's also the whole issue of enhanced economic diversification. Um, the project is strengthening the enabling environment for digital financial services. And it's also, there's development and supply of digital enabled services and skills to a global marketplace. And also, I spoke to the matter of reduced waiting times. Reduced waiting times allows for more productive time to be spent on economic activity of the customer choice or so forth, right? And enhance cybersecurity capacity against cyber attacks and fraud, both in the public and private sector. That goes to the whole matter of continuity of operations. And the final one here that I would have spoken to speaks to enhanced resilience and emergency response of critical communications infrastructure. And I just want to say that very soon we would be launching the project, and we are hoping to promote a logo competition to brand the project, to sensitize the population about the project. Its duration is for 4 years. So that in essence is my presentation. I hope as we go forward, we could further elaborate on some things.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. George. We are so blessed to have such a project that will take off here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I know our panel, not panelists exactly, but the attendees, they may be just anxious to just ask questions. But what we're going to do, we're going to move through all of the presentations, and then we are going to have like what we call a question and answer period, a round table discussion. And you can then throw your questions then so that we could have it. All right, so we're going to move on to our next presentation, and we're happy to have again with us Mr. Petrus Gums, who deals with science, technology, engineering, and maths, STEM, SVG. Mr. Gums, welcome, and please, it's now time for your presentation.
Is it on? It's on? Okay.
Yes, we're hearing you.
You're hearing clear? Okay, great. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizers and the promoter for this forum, for inviting me here to be here tonight. And based on the first presenter, I think I appreciate the information that you mentioned, because I guess you might be the foundation for helping the few of us here today, right? So yes, my name is Petrus Gums, and I'm the director and the founder for STEM SVG. Now, originally it was confined to the STEM summer program, but now we go into STEM SVG, and you will understand how this come about and what it is about as we proceed. Now, as mentioned into the introductory comments, I worked and studied in Duluth, Minnesota at the College of St. Scholastica. And I think being there and also being out of the Caribbean context of learning, a few things became very, very, very obvious, right? One of the things that I met was there were students in the same classroom as I was, 16 and 17. I was a more mature age at that time. And I was kind of surprised and taken aback by that person at 16, 17 already moving towards their degree or their first degree. And in some cases, some were already onto their second degree. And that really gave me a little shock as to what is happening. And being immersed in that culture, in that area of study for a while, I kind of realized that at a very young age, because while I was there were programs for students around 4, 5 to come into the college, into the university, to do things like robotics, web designing, and everything like that. They were exposed to a lot of things at a very early age. And I went to ask, why is this the case? Why this cannot happen in my country? And by being there and being immersed in the culture a bit, I realized the reason, one of the main reasons why this is not here in our country is because we don't have the persons or the personnel available to guide them in these different areas of maybe studying and career. What we do have is the more traditional family at home, because the persons or these young individuals who are working in the States, they are introduced to these things by maybe an uncle, an auntie, a brother who might be already working in that industry, like coding, web developing, engineering. They have that kind of tutelage already from existing persons within their community or family members. But we did not have that here. We have the accounting, we have the doctor. None that they are bad, but they are the common ones. We have the teacher, we have the nurse, and we have the police. And these are what the professions that our students and young ones are seeing and looking up to. And with all due respect, we have the van drivers, we have the conductors, and they do a good job in taking pride in the work they do. And fortunately, and maybe unfortunately, our kids are looking at that as well. So, but we do not have the prominent, programmer. We do not have the prominent engineering. We do not have the prominent these other surgeons, brain surgeons, and those kind of fields that are there to really have the personnel to kind of encourage our students. You know that these are avenues that you can take as well, not just what is there that you're constantly and currently being concerned. So I took up the task and decided, we need to do something. And I have a young one as well, just like Mr. John. I have a young one as well coming up, and I would like her to see something different as well. And during the designing of the summer program and introducing the summer program, it went from strength to strength. And one of the things that I noticed while doing the summer program, and also observing what is happening, we have a challenge of problem solving. So we try to implement that as well. Now, most of the time from working with the students who come to the summer program, I realize that going through the traditional method of teaching or traditional method of educating of the youths, I normally describe it as realizing that, there's a horse that normally carry a chariot, and they normally do it in the area of the same Duluth, Minnesota area. And it normally carries with it 2 blinds on either side of its eyes, so that it's not distracted or reduce its peripheral vision. And our children just focus on just an exam ahead, and they are drilled and they are pushed to that. And I think by doing that, I noticed that a lot of their creativity is being dampened or cut short. And as well, their ideas of working with problem solving. Funny enough, we decide, okay, we're gonna implement different aspects that are gonna help, improve and trigger this in the summer program. And we do that through the form of robotics. And this is where it became pretty interesting as we moved through the program. We realized that the primary school are the ones who really still in the creative level, while the secondary school need to be handheld quite a bit because they already gone through the system and they have been, to want of a better description, have been dulled down a bit. So we had our work cut out, so we start moving in that direction. Now, this bringing us now to where we're going and how we're moving forward. Of course, the summer program is one that has been very hands-on, where we take kids into the science field. We have them working with various equipments and so forth and things like that, and very advanced equipment that you might not find in the regular school setting or the traditional school setting. As recent time has been developing, we noticed that there has been, our technology as well has been advancing. And a advanced to the point that it is now easily accessible through the phones and the tablets, and various stakeholders have made this quite easy to achieve in getting these little devices and so forth. So right now, at this point, it is very difficult to separate technology from education. So we have to find a way to work with both of them. Now, one of the things that I have been constantly working with and, trying to advise, even while I'm in school, is some of our students, when they get these devices, they are able to change the setting and everything like that. And it just come across as a little joke in class, a little icebreaker. I normally say, don't think you're a genius because you could change the color of the phone or change the font on the phone and so forth. We have a lot. You need to be more than that. And you will hear it, but my child he has the phone, he changed up all these things. He's smart. He could do work. But we need to get them more in a deeper setting so that they could understand how to use these kind of devices rather than just for the entertainment purpose and the above the surface type of purpose of changing these things and watching YouTube and so forth, and start getting them to use it as a research tool. Now, all of this are some of the challenges that we tackled while we were working in the summer program, and we try to document it as much as possible because I think it's really important as we move forward with these kind of emerging technologies coming out. One of the things that we had tried to introduce, but it did not bear any fruit until quite recently. Since the introduction of the summer program, we actually had an online component for our students, but it was never taken seriously because, for one reason, it didn't seem like it was needed at that time. Now, I'm gonna say something, but I want to say, it not being, heartless to the persons and that has been victim of the different events have been taking place, but coming with the onslaught of COVID-19, it also brought with it the force and need and the compel for our community or our society to get online and use online and now online has become a common word in our society, in our jargon, and in the schools and among educators. One of the things, and I will mention it here, one of the things that person would have mentioned is that the St. Martin Secondary was, ahead in terms of jumping on the online bandwagon and getting our kids them ready and moving because St. Martin's never closed when the other schools went on a little break. It's because we were already testing different settings because CSEC was looking to go towards online testing. So we decided we have to get our boys them online. And one of the research and one of the things that I did as a part of that team, was figuring out how do we get our kids them to be accustomed to online? Because online for education and online for entertainment is two different things. And some of our students will tell you that when they're about to do a quiz, they are afraid to click on the button, begin quiz. That was a fear, that was a phobia for them. And they say, sir, you don't know the fear of touching begin quiz. I say, why are you afraid to touch the button, begin quiz? So because I know when I touch that, there is no going back. So we have to get them accustomed to that because CSEC was doing that. At the same time, COVID came through. So we just went full online and the students got their practice and they were able to move forward and so forth. But then because of the COVID, the wider community have to come online. They needed to come online. And this brought with it the opportunity to start capitalizing on working with students online and gathering the information and so forth online. Now, through different funding agencies, we have now able to launch the STEM Educational Online Institute. Now, this is a broader umbrella of the whole STEM SVG organization, where instead of just a summer program, because that was one of the drawbacks of having the program, because we work with kids for 4 weeks, give them all these superb ideas, but we have no way of really having a continuity as we move forward because we're using the physical infrastructure of St. Martin Secondary. And when school come in, you have to give back the persons their school. So we were able now from last year to start pushing our online. And so far, the experience has been quite interesting, where we are able now, because online brought with it, and I think by now person would have realized, and some need to come to the realization what online education brings with it. Because I'm an avid person for online education. We no longer have to be restricted with human resource in our country, even if we don't have it here in our country. What online bring with it, it opened our pool for getting persons as educators from different countries as well. Currently, we are working along with some teachers from Jamaica, and they're able to connect with students here who have the same, who working and doing the same set of courses and curriculum and everything like that. We are also able to connect with different institutions and reduce expense on different organizations to execute the various different activities that run. Case in point, last year we were supposed to have a team of Google coming down to St. Vincent and Grenadines to execute a whole entire month of program, but because of logistics in traveling, expense of traveling, and of course, the little COVID-19 came into play, they were unable to do it. And for some point in area, that project would have been dead in the water, no possibility of revival. Now with the online again, as we come forward, that project is back online to be executed this summer, and they're willing to do it for free because no longer they have to travel to our country. We don't have to house them. We don't have to provide food for them, and they work in a timing and in a structure, in a setting that they are comfortable, and our kids are available with that. Quite recently, I took it as a personal task to work with a student who I've been trying to work for the longest time. And he had a disability that prevented him from coming to school, to a regular physical school. We tried, but St. Martin was one of the schools that was fortunate to have the IT lab on the ground floor, but just getting into the room was difficult for him because he was wheelchair bound. And as soon as the online started and we start designing our online, I just say, listen, let's try this online. And today he is moving forward to set a new subject in the CXC June coming up. You know, he is one of the things that I should go to say that, you know, disability is not really for some person an inability. So those are some of the things that brought with us online. Online has brought out a lot of things, and it should bring out a lot of things where it allows for inclusivity in our education system as we move forward. All right. Also, what it has brought in the forefront, because today, specifically in our country, you know, bigger countries will have more expensive and proprietary software that is better for them in terms like Blackboard, WebCity, and so forth. Those are some of the online platforms. But today we are using in St. Vincent, you know, Google, MST, Microsoft Teams, and even possibly Zoom as we move forward. What I would like to see as educators and so forth, and as we start traversing this line of education, because I don't think online is going to move anytime soon as we progress. It's something that I think we're going to get accustomed to, and it need to be integrated, is the better management of data when it comes to these online systems. The education system and the administrators in our country will be privy to a vast amount of data that they would not normally be in access to. How students interact with content, how long they interact with content, how long the principal and the teachers interact with content. How can we revise curriculum? What curriculum works? What new curriculum could be implemented? How can we get older persons or more mature persons back into the classroom? How can we expand our classes and schools beyond the confines of the concrete building? These are some of the things that we need to start looking at as we push forward in our education and the structure of our education online. Online can bring with it a vast amount of tools and resources that we would have not been able to preview to in the past. I have to say, in St. Vincent, the past year or two. So we had to climb and we had to be baptized by fire because of what has taken place. And to some extent, I'm happy. As I say, I say respect my condolences to the person to be affected. But with this crisis, it brings some vast benefits that we were forced to accept. And I'm glad that we were able to accept because it now has opened up the windows for a lot of things that we can and our children can benefit. It's just that we have to put it out there in a manner that the older folks and the more mature folks can understand it so they can get on board as well and encourage as we move forward. Thanks.
Excellent. Resilience in disaster from an educational perspective. Mr. Gums, you did well, and I know I'm excited for that robotics program, summer program that's going to be coming up. ISOC SVG. We should have been a part of that last year, but of course, because of the whole COVID situation. Nonetheless, let's move on. And I know our attendees, both those who are on Zoom and those who are on social media, whether it be Facebook or YouTube, you're excited to ask questions. Now, you can type your questions in the chat. All right. We have chat moderators who will pick it up and they will ensure that your voice is heard. Let's rush on. Well, not rush because we're having a good time so far. Let's move on to our next presentation, discussion, because it's not going to be one person, but two rather, Mr. Maurice John and Mr. Eben Wilkins. The floor is yours, gentlemen. Let's see how we can look at technology and disaster resilience.
Thank you, Kerry, and want to say heartily thank you for being here. This is our second time at the IGF, so thanks very much. So Maurice and I, we're a part of the TechnoBlurb team. We air every Thursday on VC3 TV at 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
8 p.m. Yes. So this is kind of like a regular thing for us here. So we're gonna treat it like a TechnoBlurb show.
Yes, so we normally, it's a 20-minute show where we go back and forth discussing the world of technology. So while we had Mr. George giving us the PowerPoint. What's happening?
No point.
I was saying, while we had Mr. George with the PowerPoint, and then we have Mr. Gums speaking from his soul, we are going to have a dialogue presentation. Similar to what we have on TechnoBlog. So it's going to be a bit more lighthearted, but we're going to bring out some very important points. So just like when we're on the platform, Eben normally starts us off. So Eben starts us off as we dive into this topic this afternoon.
All right. So the theme of this year's IGF is the use of emerging technologies for disaster resilience. And Maurice and I figured that we're going to tackle this from both from a perspective as consumers and perspective from entrepreneurs and business side of things. Many of you would be familiar with the term that the world is now a global village. No so more than when I first heard it, which was a couple years ago, going back in school. But the use of technology in today's time is very important and needed. It's something that's part of our lives at this moment and something that we can't run away from, but we need to embrace it. And we see that disasters, whether it's natural, man-made, or whatever it is, it's affects us in many different ways. And technology provides us a way to mitigate many of the challenges that these disasters can create. So we're going to talk about some of these the ways that technology can help us.
All right. So unfortunately, we live in the Caribbean, and every single year we have a hurricane season. Unfortunately for St. Vincent, we live on a small island that to the north has a massive volcano. So we have several challenges within St. Vincent. And because we're a global village, a virus could break out in China, and within a short space of time, despite the fact that we are a small island in the Caribbean,
Miles away from China.
miles away, that virus can make its way to our shores. Now, when we say technology, well, we're in a global village, as Eben pointed out. That global village has significant advantage for people within small countries. Now, I believe that an internet connection levels the playing field with everybody in the world. I also believe that as much as download speed is important, upload speed is equally as important, because download speed is a consumer mechanism and the upload speed is a producer's mechanism. What are we adding to this global village that will change and shape it how we want it to be? So first, we're gonna talk about how we're going to survive in these different disasters in terms of technologies that we adapt in our personal lives, in our business lives, in our public sector lives, to make sure that we continue the wheels and keep them turning despite of whatever challenges we might have. So Eben will take over and tell us what are the different types of technologies and how are they used to keep the wheels turning despite the challenges.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start with one of the popular ICTs that's emerging, which is the voice and conference features. Apps like Zoom, Teams. What's your favorite one on the Apple device?
No, that's a joke between us because I am the Apple guy. And right now we on Zoom. So if I say FaceTime, I might see the Zoom call cut out. But I don't personally use FaceTime, but of course I because of my interest in Apple, I want the technology to develop, and competition is important in market space.
Yeah.
Where we see Zoom came out of nowhere,
Out of nowhere.
and what else what else we see? What else we saw within that space that matured quickly the space of video content.
Right. So we mentioned Zoom, which was around but wasn't as popular as it is now. And also coming out from practically nowhere was Teams, Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams was primarily a business-only application, and they transformed that into a general consumer kind of platform, almost like an instant messaging kind of service, be all, do all communication device. We see businesses are now doing the meetings from home, meetings from different locations, and they're using these platforms, Zoom and Teams, in order to continue the operation of their businesses. And what we could say is that despite the damages that COVID has caused, the introduction and the fast development pace that these developers have done to Teams and Zoom has enabled many businesses to continue the operation as if nothing has ever changed. And to some degree, production has probably increased.
Exactly. No, funny enough, I was having a conversation this week with a guy who does heavy equipment. And he was doing some work for some folks in the Grenadines in Musty. And he said what he saw in Musty is people literally redesigning their homes to remove the need for face-to-face interaction. So you're now seeing people creating video conferencing rooms that come with, absorbing sound, proper lighting for the meetings, proper camera systems, and of course, very fast internet connection.
Yeah.
So coming out of COVID, we're not only seeing how people are surviving during COVID, but people are literally making decisions going forward that I could move to an island, have a cheaper cost of living, and conduct my business because this pandemic has taught us that the technology is ready so that I could now move outside of the office every day.
Yep. Yep. And another technology that has grown is cloud storage. And it's something that a lot of people take for granted. They say that as a caveat, but cloud storage, it does wonders. I mean, imagine you doing work home, you go somewhere else, find a different computer, and you continue that same work. You don't have to walk around with your device, your laptop, desktop. You practically use any internet connected device and get access to all of your files with cloud storage. And many businesses are as well moving from the traditional server rooms,
Right.
and they're moving their data into the cloud. This has tremendous benefits. It reduces electrical bills. In case of disasters, building mashup, you still have all your data backed up somewhere in the world on a cloud storage and could easily get it. And businesses, consumers, all can benefit from these technologies.
Right. So when the volcano erupted, I do real estate, but all of my sales agreements, all of my carriage files are stored in Dropbox.
Mhm.
So there was a phased approach to going back into the office, but every single device that I work on,
It's connected.
if I pick up an iPad,
Mhm.
if I pick up an iPhone, if I pick up a laptop, all of my data is where I want.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I lend you my Surface device,
If you lend me my Surface device, I could log into my cloud and continue my
right.
business from anywhere. That is absolutely important in today's world. That we we don't the world doesn't wait on us anymore.
No.
So you can call. Well, I don't know how other businesses run, but you can call. If I had a whole staff of employees, you can call me and tell me, well, I work in a file in the office and I don't know. Volcano blew and I leave it in the office. No, that don't make no sense to me.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. We're living on a world where everything is in the cloud. Eben will be very satisfied to know that Microsoft just teased Microsoft 365,
Mm.
which is Windows running in a browser, full operating system running a browser.
Mhm.
Because while we have in the past been running fat clients, thin cloud, we have now moved from fat cloud, thin clients. So you're basically walking around with a screen and which is absolutely dependent on a strong internet connection, and it does not inhibit your ability to do work. So Microsoft has smartly realized that the device that you have does not matter.
Mhm.
As long as you have a web browser, you are supposed to be able to do work, and they are providing you with the tools now to do that work. So you can log into your Windows desktop from anywhere across the world as long as your internet allows it.
You're right. Another hot topic these days is probably the payment platforms. This is an ongoing challenge for many persons. We know about the whole piss with bassa bassa going on.
Mm,
And what was encouraging to me when PissSwift started is that they give us an opportunity to receive and do business transactions online. You had clients in Barbados, States, England, and they could practically pay you for your service through your mobile app or your website. And I think a lot of people got used to that that service from PissSwift.
Right.
And we're now finding ourselves scrambling, searching for some other alternative that could not allow us to lose all these clients that we know accumulated in that short space of time.
Right. So one of the 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 trends in every crisis there's opportunity. We see Jeff Bezos sitting at the top of the richest billionaires list. The reason why he's sitting on the top is because he provides a digital service that is uninterrupted by any of these.
Geographic boundaries, anything.
Yeah.
There's no interruption.
So COVID hit, people stayed home, people clicking on Amazon order more often. Now, as a country, we have to look at other countries for guidance as to how do we, not only when crisis hit, but before crisis hit, we look at other countries and see what they're doing. India, for example, a few years ago, put a serious emphasis on computer science, studying computer science, app development, software development. Why? The iPhone came on the market and created a massive ecosystem for app development. Last year, Apple paid out over $30 billion to developers. There's also platforms like Upwork, Fiverr, Freelancer that the Indians dominate when it comes to digital gig economy. Right in St. Vincent, there are people who have quit their jobs because they have been so integrated in these Upwork and Fiverr and using platforms like Payoneer to receive payments so that they could, Payoneer sends them a debit card, which when they do their work, they get paid, and then they withdraw the money from their debit cards. These economies, I know one individual who quit was able to even pay off his mortgage by getting consistent stream of income from these platforms. One lady, she became she was working digitally as a secretary for an international company and receiving payments in St. Vincent. Mm-hmm. And before I see Mr. Call is on the screen, so I believe you have about 5 minutes. But I want to dive a bit deeper into how digital technology supports economies. When you have a platform like YouTube, a platform like Facebook, that when you post videos and you get enough views, enough likes,
and clicks and subscribers.
My wife, she has 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. She doesn't post because of the baby that we have. But every single month, because of her library, she earns money. YouTube, Google transfers that money to her bank account. She leaves it sometimes she makes $100 a month in her inactivity. I see it all across St. Vincent. You have people making funny videos, posting it, but not understanding there is wealth in these content platforms. Outside of that, my office is in a building, and you could speak to that too. Couriers has a platform where you can, I think it's Island Bargains.
Yeah.
Every single week, Amerijet lands with several packages. Is that true?
True.
And we see that people are engaged in e-commerce. So it's not a case where we do not understand the engagement points for e-commerce. But what is happening in St. Vincent is, unless, for example, like you're like my wife, who are fortunate enough to have a social security number, set up a bank account in the US and be able to do e-commerce freely. That is not acceptable for us here.
Mhm.
Another critical part of e-commerce for it to work, there must be a way to do deliveries to your door.
Yeah.
The logistics of ordering something from a local business person and expecting it to show up at your door is a critical part of getting e-commerce to work in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yeah.
And
It is.
unfortunately, we don't have street names, we don't have house numbers, none of those things.
Yeah. One thing that you failed to mention or neglected to say is that the absence of a payment platform, it hinders growth and development in this day and age at this moment. Um, with a payment platform, there is innovation to be had. Right now, persons can innovate. We have persons making apps like Uber, persons making apps like Grubhub. But what's holding it back is a proper payment system.
Proper payment platform.
No one has the time to go and physically give someone the money when they do a ride service. No, it's a waste of time. But what's holding back growth in this economy right now is a proper payment system.
Right. So I want to touch on two things before um, um, Pastor Cole throws us off the screen. Cryptocurrency as a huge opportunity. When we're seeing coins 500x growth and wealth being generated across the world, my experience with cryptocurrency, I am doing a project in spring. A lady who is interested in one of the houses told me, I could pay you in portion of this funds for the land in crypto. I am a part of some investment firms, and one of them is artificial intelligence that automatically trades cryptocurrency and forex. I could pay you by investing for you and creating your own. So I have my own account. I could invest crypto into these platforms as part of your payment. I jumped at the opportunity and I have now a crypto portfolio, and also I'm invested in crypto crypto funding agency. Now, unfortunately, in St. Vincent, you have the banks who block crypto purchase. We can't withdraw monies from the crypto platforms. But when you're in a country that has a volcanic explosion, you need to have all avenues of possible success available to you. And crypto is a big part of that, and we need to ensure that we tackle that. Another thing, last thing before we end, and I apologize again, but we need to tap into and create platforms for crowdfunding. Crowdfunding has been leading the way for people to execute on ideas. Um, when you could have an idea and you come to the masses and come to the people, one of the crypto platforms that I invested in, they raised over $80 million to create a fund to, when you could spend $80 million and buy a currency when it's $5 and when it dropped to 450, you buy at 450 with $80 million and sell when they reach at 500. There's a lot of profit to be made for us. That's the power of crowdfunding. When you have an idea and a whole country could come and put $2 and you end up with $100,000 to execute your idea, that is important. When you see people setting up GoFundMe's, but because of you need a US account to get GoFundMe, it hampers our recovery.
It does.
And we have to always rely on the government to go and find money for us to recover from disaster. So in closing, there's a lot of opportunity out there that we need to tap into. Ben?
Yeah, we just want to thank the committee members who organized the IGF 2021 for having us. Mr. Kerr, thank you again for having us this year. And that is our presentation. And we're waiting on some questions.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. I'll tell you what, this is one of the reasons why I personally have concluded, and this is a number of years ago, probably since the first time I came to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that Maurice John Jr. He's one of the little brainchilds of um, something serious that's going to explode in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, the the whole idea of your discussion went in depth in terms of where we should be heading and what it will take for us to be really resilient during disaster. We've seen what would have happened during the COVID pandemic. We've seen how that sat upon the eruption of La Soufrière, and then, of course, with the passage of Elsa, we did not get a whole lot of damage, but you could imagine if we're really hit with a hurricane that can bring serious damage to us, what it will cause. Now, um, as you were talking, my mind ran on so many different current trending topics, and one, and I know Maurice will be happy and excited. I'm surprised he didn't mention this. You too, even given your expertise in the area of marketing. Amazon and St. Vincent being added to the list of countries that can now sell. So I'm hoping to see micron of curls and the other things that are locally produced um, come up and start selling on Amazon. So these are some of the things I'm excited about in terms of our future. But um, let's roll into our roundtable discussion. I'm going to call it roundtable discussion because it's going to be a discussion between the um, presenters and myself. And if we have any of the attendees, if you have any questions, you're invited to participate. Just say. Now, I noticed Maurice wanted to say something. Go ahead, Maurice.
Well, you just mentioned that micro, of course, selling on Amazon, and I was reading the news, and Jamaicans are now able to sell on Amazon by using their own bank account, registering with their own location, and what the folks said is that that is equivalent to a thriving tourism sector. Being able to directly access Amazon is a game changer for Jamaica. We need to figure out how they did it. We need to make some calls and figure out how did they get that done so that we can make that available to our Vincentian um, creators and people who are producing products in St. Vincent.
Okay, excellent. And this is why, the IGF is there for us too. It's a multi-stakeholder group, as we said, where we come and we discuss and look at how we could get stuff work for our growth and development. Now, I understand that to be eligible to sell on Amazon, now I think Amazon just added another 85 countries, Jamaica being one of them. St. Vincent is on the list, which means that we too, like Jamaica, can sell. So to be eligible to sell on Amazon, you just need to be resident in one of these accepted countries and have a valid phone number and an internationally chargeable credit card. So once you have that, you basically have the foundation for setting up your account to sell on Amazon. Um, so, and well, I think that's it basically. Once you do that, so we can move. Now, I hear you saying something else, and I guess this would have been a discussion picking back off of the question you might have asked last night. We know that there's a significant challenge into how the Vincentian, how we have access to these sorts of digital trading, whether it be a pay app like PaySwift, where you can do multiple cash transactions, or if you want to, you know, um, set up your PayPal, sell on eBay, buy on eBay, Amazon, etc. These things are critical indeed, as you said, to any thriving economy. Mr. George, I want to put it to you. Share from Kashif's perspective. How do you think the project you just highlighted, how can that help in this particular area?
Basically, as I indicated, in terms of the project helping in that particular area, there is the regional component that addresses the whole matter of the enabling environment, the legal and regulatory framework. Um, Spoke to the fact that component of the project addresses the whole updating of the Payment Systems Act and Money Services Business Act. So here, we're looking to modernize the policy, legal and regulatory framework and underlying payment infrastructure, which is holding back persons like the P-SWIFT and so forth within the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. Now, I must say, though, given the urgency of something like this, this issue, the whole business of agility in getting the legal and regulatory framework and policy framework has to be done, pretty quickly. We have to, it's something that we needed probably 2-3 years ago and not necessarily today. But under the project, naturally, we'll emphasize that this needs to be, moved ahead faster.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know, just before I move on, if any other of the presenters would want to jump in. If not, we're going to move on. Anybody wants to add or subtract?
Yeah, I was listening to Mr. Winston's presentation, and I was very much pleased to know that this program is coming on the way. And when he answered that question as well, when he says that the laws and regulations are going to be adjusted to accommodate such payment structure that we so badly need, it's good news for everyone right now. Something that we definitely needed 5 years ago? 5 years ago.
Excellent.
And
All right.
just to add to
Okay,
that,
go ahead.
as a small country, we need to make sure that we find, and that's why you should not be behind on anything. When I look at Barbados, for example, um, when crypto was not even so popular because of the pandemic, Barbados wholeheartedly embraced cryptocurrency. We have to make sure that every time a technology comes up and it starts coming, this could be used to better our small island. We need to jump on every opportunity as small countries to take advantage of technology as quickly as possible. It makes no, like for example, and I don't want to sound like I'm bashing the postal service. One of the most critical parts of St. Vincent's success is our postal service. I'm hoping that monies that are going to be allocated, some of it is allocated to our postal service, making sure that the logistics of sending our product from St. Vincent is so well done that folks can reliably take their packages to the post office and know for sure that the post on the other end is going to get it. There's a reason why in every economy, for example, if there's no US postal service, I don't believe that the competitive spirit of making sure everything is done well will be there. If the St. Vincent Postal Service works excellent, then the price of I know we pay for micro because you might have a product that's cost $12 and the shipping 12 US and the shipping is 30 US.
Hmm.
So people outside of St. Vincent have to love the product so much that they could see the shipping is double and still buy it. And the postal service was very much cheaper, but packages get lost, packages get damaged, and it was unacceptable for our clients. So the postal service in St. Vincent needs to be, injected with some funding to make sure that it properly assists in the turning of the wheel of us standing toe to toe with our international counterparts.
Excellent. And when we look at technology, I think one of the countries that we support is generally accepted as one of the hub of emerging technological countries. So that's Taiwan. All right. Taiwan has grown tremendously when you consider the growth of technology, and we could learn a lot from them. I know that they've assisted us with two projects. I believe one would have been the bus stops. It hasn't come online fully as yet, and I think they had a part to play also. I think I can't. Somebody, if you know, you could probably correct me. But I believe they might have had something to do with the CCTV operation that has been installed, which means that we are moving up, but we're moving rather slowly. And I guess we could look at those items from the perspective of governance. That would be the government, but then we're talking about the private individual and them, utilizing technology so that they could earn, as we would have heard. We would have gotten a couple questions in the chat. Um, Cavell King is asking if we could share a little bit more on how ISPs need to improve their service as the backbone of digital resilience. And I think this is a key point. The Internet Society, I believe in 2018, we would have done IGF specifically dealing with this topic, but since we have some panelists, you guys can share with me what do you think about this question?
I feel I will you go first. I'll come after you. Yeah? Okay. Well, in terms of the ISPs, of course, it's a very, very um troubling topic as we come through from the different aspects. Now I'm gonna, as usual, I'm gonna speak from an educational standpoint as we move with the same online setting. I do quite agree that yes, the service need to be improved by our service providers here. Some of the things that we have encountered while we venture out on the online is something as simple as when the weather change, some of our students can't connect. You know, they every so often, you hear internet dropping here, an outage there, and sometimes it be out for a week. The other thing that was pretty interesting while this was happening is that you will call the number you give and you get somebody in Jamaica who is answering. So the response time for resolving an issue is even longer. So we have a student might be out for several days who can't get who can't get internet access or can't get online to do their work as the way they should. This has been a very, very frustrating aspect of working with students on an educational standpoint. Sometimes I think even myself, when I am using, I'm currently completing a master's in online. And to be honest with you, I normally have two devices online. One that has the internet connection and one that goes with data. just in case the internet connection at some point during my conferences with my professors drop off. That just shows you, goes to show you the level of trust and reliability that you have in what is currently being offered. And it could be pretty frustrating from an educational standpoint. And I really do hope, and I know for a fact that persons have been talking. I know that there have been complaints being lodged. And to some extent, I could be wrong, subject to correction. I'm not too sure what is being done to improve it as we move along. I have been hearing reports of service being offered by one of the competitors, and it has been pretty reliable. So maybe we'll see as it becomes popular among our consumer base here in St. Vincent, that we could see that little competition kind of making each of those competitors up their game a bit.
Most definitely. And you know what we need to consider too is that when you compare what we pay for, you know, what we pay to our internet service providers, um, compare that to some of they term first world countries, we pay almost more than what an average person in North America would pay, and we get so much less. So definitely, we would definitely need to hold them accountable, and they need to really work on improving. Anybody has any other point before we move on?
If I may,
Yeah.
that particular matter is something that is to be addressed under this particular project in terms of the enabling environment. I spoke to the fact that ECTEL, the Eastern Caribbean Telecommunications Authority, and the NTRC are part of this work, but there was some previous work that was done under the CASIP project in terms of the whole legal and regulatory framework. And there is the issue of quality of service that has to be addressed. You have matters related to, you know, consumer advocacy. Consumers have to also advocate, but as well, the providers would need to upgrade their networks. They need to ensure that the networks are resilient, and also their sourcing may need to be redundant. So this particular project would look at some of those items, and also the cost of the services. You know, naturally competition allows, you know, could drive prices down. And if I am to go back to the whole matter of upgrading the networks, the government under the CASIP project implemented the CASIP broadband project, which is a fiber optic network that went from Fancy right down to Union Island. So we have the undersea cable going into the Grenadines and so on. And at the north of St. Vincent, there's a ring from Oya to Chateaubelair. So we have that particular network, and it was implemented under public-private partnership. And I heard Petrus speaking to the fact that probably the internet being provided by a particular supplier, you know, the reviews is that probably it's better. But that high-speed broadband network was implemented in partnership with government, right? So on that, the government has a government-wide area network, 10 gigabit per second speed, and so on. That is in terms of government, from distribution center to distribution center, and access sites would have 1 gigabit per second. But even so, that is a little chunk of that pipe. So the Digicel has a broader, well, they have a broader part of that pipe. So those are some of the things I would want to probably enter into the discussion there.
And to to just piggyback off of what my colleague just mentioned, I think as well, we as the consumers of these services from the various ISPs need to hold them accountable for, let's want of a better word, the services that they might be encountering while working with them. Seeing that my colleague mentioned ECTEL and the NTRC. The NTRC here is instrumental, and I don't think persons really realize the features and tools that the NTRC provides for consumers who are consuming these. The NTRC is almost the advocate for customers who are using these services that they don't think they're getting the kind of service that they're paying for. And as you mentioned, it's a pretty costly price that we pay. So the NTRC here in SVG has been an instrument to the fact of providing low budgeted subsidized connection for persons who are advantaged. But it also is that source where you can bring these ISPs to speak and give you an explanation as to why you're not getting the services that you should be getting for what you're paying for. So I'm not too sure if our consumer or customer base here in St. Vincent is aware that there is this avenue through the NTRC here that can be used to really bring these services or these persons to really account for what they are, the kind of dissatisfaction they are getting, our customers are getting. And it should be more publicized out there as well.
Yes, most definitely. I'll tell you what, we could talk all night on this one topic indeed, but this section actually has come to an end. But we have one question that I really want to bring to the fore. It comes from YouTube, Burns KBC. He asks, or she asks, do you have an age limit for the STEM project or program? Is there something for a cohort of older folks who missed out on technology opportunities? And that's, of course, to you, Petros.
What is that username? I want to just
Burns KBC.
Hey Burns, right? Listen, this that is exactly why we now develop the online institute. So we want to reach out to persons like you who are like-minded, who are interested in revisiting and talking about courses that you would like to touch back base and refresh yourself with. So there is no limit. We have moved we used to be from age 8 and up, but we have now include homeschooling, short courses, and working with different institutes throughout the Caribbean to bring courses to you that you might be interested in. So all you have to do, we are flexible like that, is connect with us. We could connect with us through Facebook or Instagram, STEM SVG or STEM Online Institute, and reach out there, and then we will connect with you and reach what is going on, ask and try to find out how we can be of an assistance to you in you improving, or colleagues like yourself improving yourself as we move forward in this institute. You can also connect with us through our phone numbers as well as 434-6847. You could connect with that, call that, and you will definitely get a response. Any hour, we'll be ready there. We'll be there to assist anything at all.
All right, thank you very much. We want to move into what is called the IGF Quick Flash. This is where you'll get a good little knowledge of what the IGF is about. And to bring this section to us, or this particular presentation, discussion, dialogue, is Miss Anja Gengo. Now, she currently works at the United Nations Secretariat for the Internet Governance Forum, IGF, as an associate program expert and a focal point for the national, regional, and youth IGF initiatives. So prior to joining the IGF Secretariat, she worked as an analyst and legal advisor in private legal practice, focused on media and ICT law. She's the co-founder of the Center for Media Law, where she worked as an internet policy analyst and a program coordinator. Ms. Gengo is a 10-year experienced debater, trainer, and judge for the Karl Popper and British parliamentary debate formats with extensive experience from many national, regional, and international debate tournaments. She holds a bachelor's degree in law and a master's degree in international law, with her academic research focus on the intersections between digital technologies and law. She's also an alumni of the Monroe E. Price Program in Comparative Media Law and Policy from University of Oxford and Annenberg School of Communication. Uh, would you help me to welcome Ms. Gengo even as we go into this little section we call the IGF Quick Flash? Ms. Gengo?
Oh, thank you very much. Sorry for this pause because I think your colleagues were moving me to this side, where the panelists are. Well, first of all, to Mr. Kerr, thank you very much for this kind and thank you for agreeing to work with me on this very quick flash session focused on the IGF 2021. Before we dive into that, I really have an urge to congratulate you all. These have been amazing 2 days. About the topics that I have to say are very much exotic to a good portion of the world, just because of your very specific position and unfortunately that experience that you have with dealing with natural disasters and how digital technologies can help you. And as my supervisor said yesterday in his opening remarks, the world really can learn from you. And that's an additional reason why I asked colleagues from the organizing committee if this flash session could be hosted in the framework of your national IGF, just because I believe that you have inputs which are very unique and the world can benefit a lot if you attend and take active participation at the 2021 Internet IGF that's going to be hosted by the government of Poland in Katowice in December from 6th to 10th of December. With that, I'm going to, I think I have a sharing privileges, share a very quick presentation with you. So as I said, the 16th annual IGF meeting is now being prepared, and we're hoping that if the pandemic allows, we will meet in Katowice from 6th to 10th of December. The meeting will be hosted on the overall team called the Internet United. And we are now in the midst of preparations for the meeting. As you can, I'm sure, understand, we're also challenged by the still ongoing pandemic and understanding the ways how the IGF 2021 can be hosted in order to ensure meaningful participation for those participating on site as well as for those participating online. So the hybrid nature of the IGF is something that we work on very closely, in addition to developing the program that's been mostly dependent on the public call for inputs and public call for sessions, and currently is resulted in over 200 sessions, which we expect that will be accommodated over 5 days of the meeting. The approach in terms of the thematic scope to this year's IGF is also a little bit different. It's the so-called issue-driven approach that the MAG is implementing, the members of the multi-stakeholder advisory group. And in that sense, we are focusing on 2 main focus areas, which are related to economic and social inclusion and human rights, as well as universal access and meaningful connectivity. And among those areas, we have a number of cross-cutting issue areas, such as the emerging regulation, environmental sustainability, inclusive internet governance ecosystem and digital cooperation, trust, security, and stability. On these narratives, in the past couple of weeks, the community has been submitting a number of session proposals, and we are close to finalize the final schedule and to share it with the community so you can start also planning your own participation at the IGF. But as I said at the beginning, it's a different year. It's very challenging. We faced those challenges last year. I think last year we were very much surprised. This year we're very much ready, at least, to respond to the challenge, just because of the last year's experience, which help us to foresee certain situations and also learn from good practices from last year, but also some of course mistakes which were made. So in that regard, this year's IGF process will include, in addition to the annual meeting in Poland, a very active preparatory and engagement phase. Part of that preparatory and engagement phase are a series of activities which will be hosted in between late July all the way until early December, until we meet in Katowice. And I think it's an excellent opportunity for stakeholders to meet other stakeholders from other parts of the world, from other disciplines, other stakeholder groups, those that have different experiences, maybe different questions to ask, and that can maybe offer different responses. So all in all, it's a very good opportunity to network and to brainstorm together with many people from the world coming and gathering around the IGF on what are the most contemporary issues related to the internet governance. So I will not be going now detailing in the preparatory phase. The schedule will be shared with all the NRI coordinators. So Roxanne will have a schedule and she can share further with you. But I hope that through this quick flash session, I can awaken your interest, and I hope that you will pay attention to the IGF's activities implemented throughout the couple of months that are ahead of us, and help us, first of all, to bring very, as I said at the beginning, very unique and specific inputs that you have in your communities, in your wonderful country, and also network with others and ensure that our overall agenda, our program is comprehensive enough and relevant indeed for all the specificities that exist across countries and regions. I did mention at the beginning, while preparing for the IGF itself in Katowice in Poland will take hybrid form, which means that we will ensure equal conditions for those that will participate on site, so being in person in Katowice, as well as those that will participate online. We're very much aware that the pandemic will probably continue to pose challenges in certain parts of the world toward the end of this year. And with having that in mind, we understand that it's difficult, even at this point of time, to plan your travel. So please do rest assured that in case some of you will not be able to travel, there are still so many ways to participate from the comfort of your home in so many sessions that will feature the program of the 5-day IGF. I also want to say that the IGF this year will include traditional IGF village exhibition booths from more than 50 organizations coming from different parts of the world and with different backgrounds. And the booths this year will be different in a way that in addition to being, of course, installed on site in Katowice, they will also have their installment online. So if you are not in Katowice, please do not worry. There will be opportunity to mingle and network with the IGF Village organizers and hopefully connect and nurture some good partnerships that could come out of that social component. We also encourage all the national, regional, and youth IGFs to gather and organize their communities and maybe install a remote hub at their universities, in your offices, something similar that you're basically doing for this meeting, given its hybrid nature as well. You can approach the IGF Secretariat if you need any form of substantive support for installing your remote hub and register it with us. We will give it visibility it deserves for sure and priority in participation in all the sessions. And finally, something that's very important for the IGF, but I think for the global community as well, are a couple of topics which are a subject of the IGF's intersessional work that is underway and will definitely continue all the way until the IGF in Katowice. I speak about the best practice forums, which are focused on cybersecurity. specifically on the use of norms to foster trust and security, and gender and digital rights, as well as the policy networks focused on environment and on meaningful access. This is something what I've heard, at least from your panels, that's very much relevant for your wonderful country and for the communities that live there, but also I think globally. With one important point, which I will underline again, is the fact that this institutional work can really benefit from your attention, from your advice, from your ideas, and especially from your experience, given a very specific place of the world where you reside. And I think you're very fortunate to live in such a beautiful country. Finally, in addition to that, before I conclude, I just would like to say that the registration for the IGF 2021 meeting are open. Structurally speaking, what could be also interesting for you, and I wanted to underline that as well, some of you were very active in the circles of the United Nations Secretary General Roadmap for Digital Cooperation discussions, and some of you, I'm sure, may know that it is expected that the roadmap will inspire and prompt some concrete improvements with the IGF, structurally speaking. So we do expect, for example, that the renewal of the multi-stakeholder advisory group will be launched soon. And I hope that we will get some nominations from your country. That would be wonderful, as I don't recall we had anyone on the MAG from your country, and your region, globally speaking, for digital technologies is so extremely important. And I hope that the experts that I had the opportunity to listen to throughout these 2 days will really take proactive role and step up their efforts to contribute not just to your country, but really just to the global world, because I think you have that immense potential. With that, I hope this made sense. Please note it's around 2 a.m. I think here, so it could be that if I made any mistakes, you will forgive me and understand, I'm sure. Once again, I really would like to thank you for excellent deliberations. I hope that you will continue to liaise with the IGF. Roxanne, the coordinator for the IGF Secretariat of your National IGF, is just an excellent partner to us, and we will continue to inform Roxanne and ask her to communicate relevant information to the broader community in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I hope that we will have a response from the broader community on many of the call for actions. If you need anything from the IGF Secretariat in terms of strengthening your national IGF, we are more than happy to cooperate and to be your partners, just because we really respect the contributions that you're giving to the world. With that, I'll stop here. I know we're getting closer to the end, and I thank you very much for this time and for excellent deliberations so far. Thank you, Mr. Kerr.
Thank you, Anja. It was a blessing to have you with us, and we are excited to hear so much about the IGF. Just a quick question before you run away. Who are the participants at the IGF? It's not that I don't know, but I know my friends who are listening, they would want to know this information so that they can know. You just talked about, you can get representatives from St. Vincent or in our region. So if you could just talk a little bit on that and, just to inspire someone to want to be a part of it.
Yes, well, thank you very much for a very good question. I think the quick response to that would be just everyone. The IGF, as you know, is an open process, and it's very much dependent on people as a bottom-up and multi-stakeholder process. So traditional participants at the IGF, including the annual meeting, which welcomes traditionally over 3,000 participants on site and a similar number of those online as well, are coming from all parts of the world, basically from different member states. Over 150 member states are represented at the IGF every year. They come from different backgrounds, stakeholder groups and disciplines. So you can basically meet people from the civil society, traditional academic circles, non-governmental sector, but also from governments. We're very much focusing in the past 3 years on engaging legislators, so members of parliaments. And I do also encourage you, if there are members of your parliament which are active around the national IGF, reach out to the Secretariat. There's a couple of interesting activities which I think are very important for building capacity across the parliaments of the world and getting attention of those that finally make decisions that we hope to inspire. As well as the technical communities. You just spoke about the internet service providers and the important role they play in our ecosystems. Traditionally, you can find ISPs from various countries really at the IGF. As I said, the technical community, private sector, so businesses from different world. So it's really an open and a very friendly environment. I can testify to that fact. So I think it's actually good place of many opportunities and to be inspired. When it comes about the multi-stakeholder advisory group that I mentioned, the response there would be the same, basically. When we launched the call for nominations, anyone coming from civil society, private sector, government, or technical community can self-nominate or nominate someone else, and from any of the country, of course, and go into the process of hopefully being maybe selected and appointed finally by the Secretary General of the United Nations. Well, I hope I responded, but happy to respond to additional questions.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You did an excellent job. Thank you very much. I hope that you can get a little bit sleep now by God's grace. All right, so
Thank you.
it's time for me to do the vote of thanks, even as we bring this grand Internet Governance Forum to an end. I want to begin by first thanking our panelists this evening. Mr. Winston George, thank you very much for your presentation. And I know that even the other panelists, they are excited for what will happen over the next couple of years. And we hope that what CARSIF is doing will make an impact that will push St. Vincent further into the technological future. Mr. Gums Petros, we are happy for this initiative of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, where you want to bring the young and even the senior folk to have an important idea of what it is to have that type of curious mind, robotics, and other technological areas, artificial intelligence, etc. Maurice John and Eben Wilkins, your presentation was very relaxing, made a lot of folk felt at home, and of course the width of the breadth of what you would have discussed did open a lot of minds and questions. We are grateful. So thank you very much for your presentation. And of course, we want to thank Anja Gengo for her little IGF quick flash. I know where she is. It's in the dead, well, probably quite early in the morning. So she probably either missed a lot of sleep or had to wake up pretty early. But we are grateful for your sacrifice, for being here with us. We want to thank also the NCTI for allowing us to use their room as our venue for this IGF. We want to thank our caterer who would have provided meals for those who were in room. We want to thank our events committee for pulling this together, led by John Quill Cadogan. She's in charge of the events committee. And of course, our effervescent IGF coordinator, Mr. Willis Williams. You've always been able to help pull things together. I almost go to say brothers and sisters, thinking of a church, well, not a church. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so grateful that you could have joined us. And I hope that you would have gotten a little tip of the iceberg, if not a whole lot more, about the use of emerging technologies for disaster resilience, given what St. Vincent and the Grenadines would have went through. So this officially brings to an end our third national IGF. We want to thank also, it just came to my mind, those of you who would have attended and participated. This would not have been an IGF if you were not here. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for sharing. And what I'm happy about is that this will not disappear. It's going to be available on YouTube. It's going to be available on our Facebook page. All right. So share it. Let folk know that the IGF in St. Vincent and Grenadines is happening, and we are pushing and going. We want to encourage you also to remember the feedback evaluation forms. We would have posted a link in the Zoom. We would have posted a link in the YouTube. We would have posted a link in the Facebook. All right. And um, if you're viewing via YouTube, please try to either copy and paste or click the link before this ends, because I'm not sure the chat will stay up after we have ended. All right. So again, thank you very much, and we pray that God blesses you, and we look forward for another IGF in 2022 by God's grace. Thank you very much.